Shout out Sniper T on the beat.
Tamara to the break of dawn is on the rise, with life on the forefront of the mind. So line for line, you can ride this brain train and you can change your station without even touching the dial. So relax, stay a little bit, but listen for a while. And whether you're bumping this in the whip or in a business fit, it's a meeting you won't want to miss. A meeting for a meal to feed the soul with words for the mind. So sit back, enjoy the ride. Time to take off, it's time to fly. Cause Tamara till the break of dawn is on the rise.
Hey, y'all. That's me, Tamara. Yes. Thank you so much for tuning in. Let's go ahead and get into it. I find it so funny that y'all have been waiting for this episode about waiting, because I didn't really want to record this episode because I'm actually frustrated with some of the things that I'm having to wait for in the season. And this week has just really been a rough week. I go through ebbs and flows where I quote unquote wait well, I guess. And I don't even really know if it's that I'm waiting well or if it's just that nothing is highlighted to me, or I don't know. I'm sure there's a real answer for that, but this episode is going to be somewhat filtered through the lens of my frustration. So it just is what it is with this one. So I go through seasons where I guess I quote unquote wait well. And then I go through seasons like this week where I'm extremely frustrated and annoyed. And I'm in a better space today at the time of this recording. Shout out to 12 Kyle. But I'm in a better space today than I was earlier this week. That's kind of why, this episode is late and y'all waiting on the episode about waiting. But let's go ahead and get into it, y'all, because y'all know I like to define things. So, to wait is to remain inactive or in a state of repose as until something expected happens. Not even sure if repose is how you pronounce that, but that's what we're going to go with. To be available or in readiness, to remain neglected for a time. Y'all, that's the one right there, but we'll get into that later. To postpone or delay something, or to be postponed or delayed. To look forward to eagerly. And I have never been one who has ever been a fan of waiting, but there are definitely different things that I'm fine with waiting for. Like, I don't know, if I'm at a store or a restaurant or I'm somewhere and there's some sort of inconvenience and it makes me have to wait a little bit longer, I'm not really tripping off that. Or, traffic can be frustrating at times and I get somewhere late, or maybe I'm not late, but maybe I'm just having to be in traffic longer than expected because something happened. I'm not really tripping off that type of waiting either. And even when it comes to like working towards a goal, I'm not even necessarily frustrated with that type of waiting. So I don't even really know that I don't like to wait. It could just be that in the waiting, especially when you're waiting for the Lord to move, I think there are so many lies that you start to believe. Number 3 of the definition, to remain neglected for a time. Now, that's such an interesting definition that I didn't even know that was in the definition of the word wait. I don't look these words up once I decide that I'm going to speak on this topic. I actually pull the word up on the dictionary.com app right before I hit record, and I don't really get into it. And so to remain neglected for a time is such an interesting definition in waiting, because when you are someone who has a relationship with the Lord, you know that he never leaves or forsakes you. You know that even in the silence, he's always working behind the scenes. But in the silence, I begin to feel neglected. And that is when I get frustrated. When I know that he's with me and when I know that he's moving and I get little winks from God, as they like to say, or just confirmation or something to know that he's with me for sure, I'm good. But it's when chaos ensues, or it's when it feels like the opposite of what I want to happen is happening, that I start feeling like, well, maybe he doesn't care about this. And that's actually, wow, that's funny. That's actually why I get frustrated. I don't actually get frustrated because of having to wait, because I am very much a believer. And I look at the whole, as I've talked about liking somebody, and I think about how long I've been single, and I think about how wounded and how much healing and freedom I've gotten, even in the last 6-7 months or whatever. And I think about how whoever I actually end up with, be it this person I like or someone else, whoever I end up with is getting the healthiest version of me ever, the wholest version of me ever. So I'm very much a believer that waiting prepares you to wisely steward what it is that you are desiring so that you don't fumble it when you get it. But man, feeling like I have been neglected, that is what frustrates me about waiting. That's crazy. It's just really crazy because, like I said, I didn't want to sit down and record this episode because I'm frustrated with waiting and I wasn't really sure how this episode was going to go. But I actually just got revelation for myself on why I've been so frustrated, because I have felt very neglected in a certain area of my life. Actually, not just one, in a couple of areas. And it's not true though, right? Especially, I posted something yesterday on Facebook. Yes, I be on Facebook. Y'all Facebook might be whatever, but my people that I really know in real life are on there. So I don't be having whatever type of problems y'all have on there, because I don't have them problems. So I be on Facebook, and I posted something that I saw that said, God always comes through. I just panic first. And that might be verbatim, but it might not. But that was the gist of the meme that I shared. And that is so true. There has never been a time ever, whether I had to wait longer than I wanted to or not, that God didn't come through. Now, the thing about waiting, though, is waiting is not this sit and do nothing type thing. Like, even when God is using the waiting season as a season of preparation, you are participating with whatever ways that he is trying to heal, equip, shape, mold, whatever. You are participating with that. So you are doing work. But I will use looking for a place to live as a example, because I made that decision when I had money saved that I needed to have a car before I move. I don't regret that, because I have independence, even though I still live with someone. And so now I'm to the point where it's like, all right, it's time to get over the fear of living alone, because that really is such a foreign concept to me. There's people that are like, oh, I've always lived alone and blah, blah, blah. That's great for you, sir or madam. That has never been my experience. And your experience has nothing to do with me. Like, how I feel about something new and it's scary to me, just because you've never had that don't have nothing to do with me. Like, I have never lived alone in my 43, almost 44 years of life. Like, that's a long time to have never done something and then suddenly I got to do it. But instead of all the fear and anxiety that I've kind of allowed to just whatever, I'm just kind of like, you know what? It's going to be a good season. It actually, when I think about it, I've never had a time in my life where I could just focus on me if I choose to. I've never had a time in my life where I could go home and disconnect from everybody if I choose to. I think that's actually really healthy, because especially when I think about all the things that my family has gone through, we'll just say the last almost 9 years, right? It's been a lot. It's been a lot of heavy stuff. And so I think having a season where my kids are good, my grandson's good, and I can just focus on me, I think that's healthy, because I've never had that, because I became a mom at 19. So it's always been focused on all these other people. But with that, as I'm waiting, I'm not just sitting around saying, okay, Lord, I'm waiting for you to move. And so I'm just waiting on you. Now, mind you, in some instances and in some scenarios, you can easily get stuck there where you feel like you're waiting for the Lord to move. And so you don't do anything. And I actually had a conversation with someone about that not too long ago where he said, sometimes we want God to move and we want him to do some grand thing. I'm kind of paraphrasing what he said, but we want him to do some like grand gesture before we move, when sometimes we need to take a step of faith first and then God will open the door or whatever, you know? And so in that moment, I kind of was stuck in a place of, when I'm not sure what I should do, I won't do anything. Like, there are some people that they're not sure what they'll do and they'll just do whatever. And then they're like, oh, I shouldn't do that. I'm not really like that. I want to be sure of what I'm doing, in the sense of, I want to be sure that that's like what the Lord wants me to do, because I really do now in my life try to be mindful of his plans and his purposes and all that. And so since I'm there, I feel like sometimes I can be almost inactive sometimes, and I don't stay there, but it'll be there for a little bit. But with this wanting to move, yes, I'm waiting on the Lord to open a door, but I'm online. I'm looking at what apartments are out there, how much, I made a list of my budget, my non-negotiables, where I want to live, as far as what part of town and stuff like that. And I have so far 2 appointments. One, I wasn't actually able to go see the apartment because by the time I got there, then it's like they won't have anything available till July. So I wasn't able to see anything. And that's fine, because one thing I know is that a door that I'm not supposed to walk through is not going to open. And so while it is annoying sometimes trying to like waste time, go drive somewhere and then not be able to do it, at least I'm doing my part to try to make things happen, right? And so then I have another appointment coming up over this weekend. I'm just going to make a bunch of different appointments to tour apartments. If I am supposed to go there, I'll be able to. And if I'm not, I won't. Because that's kind of my prayer has been like, Lord, don't even let me see something that's not where I'm supposed to go. Because I do firmly believe that if the Lord has a plan for my life, then there is a place that he has for me, that he wants me to go live there for whatever reason, for whatever season and whatever. So I firmly believe that. But sometimes it's not just him saying, oh, go here, and it's this immediate thing. Sometimes you find it by this roundabout journey of, going different places that are not it, until you finally get to the place that is it, because all of the no's are a part of the preparation process for the yes. So it's like this really interesting thing with waiting, but it can be very frustrating, and it is my least favorite thing to do. And they talk about waiting well a lot, and I'm not going to say that I have a ton of perspective on that right now. I'm sure I do, but like I said, this episode is kind of filtered through the frustration of having to wait. But I will say, I feel like to wait well, one, I have to remind myself that even when God is silent, he is always with me. Even when I can't see it, he's working. He's always behind the scenes doing whatever. And I always see, when I get wherever, like, dang, he was there the whole time, and I see how it was all moving together. I always end up seeing that. And so then I need to remember that, because I don't know why when I go through new scenarios, I have this misconception that suddenly God's character is going to switch up. I could see if I was new to my relationship with him, but we are going on almost 17 years of me actually being serious about my relationship. So there was also experiences in my teenage years where he did things when I wasn't even serious about living for him. But we talking about almost 17 years of consistent character, consistent behavior, of faithfulness, of always working things out, and it always ending up working out for my good. Does that mean everything that I go through is good? No, but he works all things together for my good. That has been a consistent thing for almost 17 years. Yet every time I face something new that I don't know how it's going to work out, and then when I have to wait for him to work things out, then all of a sudden I'm questioning whether or not he's going to do the same thing. And it's not necessarily that he's going to do the same thing, but I'm questioning whether or not his character is going to switch up and he's suddenly going to actually neglect me. That has never happened. And so I think with waiting well, I need to, one, remember who God is, who his character is. And if I'm honest, for this topic, I don't know how y'all wait on stuff who don't have a relationship with the Lord. So I don't always tailor everything specific to people who have a relationship with the Lord, but I don't really know how to give you any context, any advice, or any of that that does not include the Lord, because that is literally the only reason that I am able to wait for any of the things that I have had to wait for, is by his power and me remembering that he's with me and me remembering the things that he did in the past. And it's really interesting because, like with my kids, for example, as they were babies, they would cry and I would jump immediately because they didn't know me. And I was also trying to figure out what it was that they needed. And I say they didn't know me because they didn't know I was trustworthy. You know what I mean? We just met. I mean, that's the reality of it. But then the older that they've gotten, it's kind of like, even if they ask for something and I don't move right away, they can know that they can rely on me for certain things because I've proven myself to be trustworthy. And it's wild that my kids know that about me, a human. And I have failed them and I have let them down and I have maybe said I was going to do something and then wasn't able to do it. Not because that I didn't want to, but because I couldn't do it. I have done that to them. And that's crazy that they, though, continue to trust me and continue to come to me. Even as adults, there's different things that they still come to me for help with or whatever because they know I'm going to. That's crazy because, however, God has never failed me, has never not done what he said he would do. And yet I still question and struggle with that. It's crazy. And so, yeah, waiting is not my favorite thing, but you know, it's a part of what I have to go through. We all have to go through it. And what I do know is that waiting helps to prepare me, us, this is true of everyone, to wisely steward what it is that we want. If we were ready for it, we would have it. That's true. That sometimes is annoying to think about. It really is. But if we were ready for it, we'd have it. Or if it was ready for us, we'd have it. There's also that too. Sometimes what we want isn't ready for us. And so God wants to give us good things. And so he's not going to give us something that's not ready for us. Now, there are times where people will say, you ask God for a cake and then you get mad when he gives you eggs, flour, oil, sugar, I don't know, whatever goes in a cake if you're making it from scratch, right? He gives you the ingredients and you have to do the work to put the ingredients together and mix it up and put it in the oven and wait for it to bake. So there's that where you actually do get something where you have to participate in. But then there are times when God gives you something and you didn't have to do anything to make it happen. You didn't have to mix the ingredients together. You didn't have to put it in the oven. So when he's giving you a cake, he's not going to give you a half-done cake if he's giving you the cake and he's not expecting you to make the cake. You know what I mean? He's not going to give you a cake that he mixed the ingredients together and he put it in the oven, but he's only going to put it in the oven for 12 minutes. I don't even know how long it takes to make a cake. I haven't made a cake in forever. But you know what I'm saying? He's not going to give you some half-cooked cake and be like, here you go. He's not going to do that. And so that's the thing, too, that I am having to be reminded of is that, one, if I was ready for it, I would have it. Or two, if it was ready for me, I would have it. And it's not my job to try to figure out what's going on and what's what. My job is to really, in seasons of waiting, stay close to him and participate with what he's trying to do in my life. So I was on TikTok the other day. I've actually been on TikTok a lot lately, but this dude was kind of breaking down Hebrews 11:1, and I'm not going to go into all what he said, but the verse is, now faith is the assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen. And he was talking about how faith and hope are not the same thing, because faith is what you trust. Like, you put your faith in something and then you hope for something to happen. And so we put our faith in God, but then we hope for God to do whatever, right? And so he was talking about that. And so with that, with waiting, it's like, when I'm waiting, I'm hoping for him to do whatever, but I have to put my faith in him, not put my faith in what I want him to do. I'm hoping for him to do whatever in whatever area, but my faith is in him. And then with that, trusting that even if it doesn't go the way that I hope it should go, trusting that he's working it all together for my good. He's only going to give me what's good for me. So maybe with apartments, for example, that I went there online, they said they had an apartment available this month, actually. And when I went there, nope, we ain't gonna have nothing till July. That's obviously, for whatever reason, not where I'm supposed to go. And the interesting thing about it is, one thing I do when I'm trying to move, because we've moved a few times in the past 9 years. And so one thing I do when I'm about to move somewhere is I'll go drive around the area before I even view the place and just kind of feel how it feels. And there's been this consistent thing that if I go there, I will feel just this peace, that it's the same type of peace every time it has been. This is where I'm supposed to go. That lets me know this is where I'm supposed to go next. And when I drove around those apartments the other day, I didn't feel that peace. And I just remember thinking like, oh no. And so then what I did after I had that experience is I prayed, and I'm like, okay, Lord, I don't want to see any apartments, townhomes, whatever. I don't want to see anything that you don't have for me, and I'm not supposed to go there, because I don't want to get caught up in, ooh, this is nice, or ooh, whoop-de-woo, and then that's not even what I'm supposed to be doing, you know? And so I just think it's really interesting that, sure, I had hoped that I would just go there, it'd be it, whoop-de-woo, we on the path to whatever. So I had hoped that that would happen that way. But my faith is not in the outcome. My faith is in the one who brings the outcome. And I trust that even though the outcome didn't go the way that I wanted it to go, my faith is in the one who brings the outcome. And I trust that whatever outcome he brings about is what's best for me, you know? And so that's why I said, I don't even know how people wait and who go through trials and who do whatever without relying on the Lord. And I know I used to be that person, and I think about who I was then and how I navigated trials. And then the way that I do it now, I have so much more peace. And it doesn't mean that there aren't tears. I've cried a lot since Wednesday. At the time of this recording, it's Saturday. This is going to drop today. I have cried a lot since Wednesday, but on the other side of them tears, it's release of pain, frustration. There's been a lot of just random stuff. Like even My aunt reached out to me, my bio dad's sister. I haven't talked to her in a while. I don't even know what happened. She gave me her number and was like, hey, call me when you get a chance. And it just brought up so much pain from my bio dad that I just haven't reached out to her yet, because I'm just like, I know she's not about to tell me necessarily anything bad about him, because the nursing home or whatever where he lives, they have my number. So they would call me if something bad happened. But I don't know. I just haven't reached out because it's just been a rough week of processing so many emotions. But here's the thing. I still have faith in the one who determines the outcomes. And I still have faith and trust that even though sometimes it's difficult, it doesn't mean that he's not with me, right? So the lie that I was believing is that when I'm waiting, I'm being neglected. I'm never neglected. I'm never forsaken. So yeah, I don't know how people really do it without. I don't know how to give perspective or anything on waiting outside of the way that I gave it today. So hopefully this has been helpful. I know this episode has been a little bit different, but this is why I waited to do this episode, because it's been a source of frustration, right? So as always, though, make sure you are taking care of yourself mentally. Make sure you are taking care of yourself emotionally. Make sure you are taking care of yourself spiritually and physically. Be healthy in your relationships. And yeah, so thank y'all for listening. I love y'all so much, and I will talk to y'all soon. Bye.
Ladies and gents, this concludes transmission. Tune in next time for a whole new edition. Another adventure and mission to share, be heard, and clarify the vision of this whole new world for